How do you learn how to be a good dad to your kids when you have never had one? No one taught me how to lead. I didn't grow up with a father. There was no bedtime stories, no one cheering from the sidelines, just survival, day after day. So when I had kids, I had two options: repeat what I knew or build something better. Of course, I chose to build. This video is for any man who's trying to figure out how to be a good dad to your kids without a playbook. I'm gonna walk you through what worked for me, what I've unlearned, and what matters more than anything. It doesn't matter how broken your past was, what matters is how you show up today. If you ever felt lost or unsure how to do this right, you're not alone. So let's figure this out together. So I'm Tony. I've been a single dad for over 3 years, raising two daughters. I'm just sharing my experiences so I can help others. Most parents can picture who they want to be by looking at who raised them. I didn't have that. I had absent. There was no one teaching me how to be present, how to be disciplined with patience, or how to lead by example. So when I became a father, I only know what not to do. My childhood was shaped by what was missing. My past, we lived in government housing until I made it all the way to college. I remember going to church just to get a sandwich, eating soup with no meat, constant survival mode. That experience burned a rule into my brain. My kids would never grow up like that. That was non-negotiable. That's why when I show up to every school event, I read to my daughters. I carry them. I cheer louder than anyone else. I listen even when I'm tired. Not because it's some parenting hack, but because I know what it feels like when no one's there. I didn't learn this from some book. I learned it from being a kid who didn't get what he needed. So I built that standard into every part of how I show up today. And even with all that, I still find myself questioning if it was enough. That moment came during one of my hardest years of my life. And that was during the pandemic. I had no job, no direction. I was stuck in a relationship that was barely holding on. Everything felt heavy. I was trying to hold it all together for my daughters, but inside, I was worn down. I booked a therapy session. I didn't expect much. I figured maybe I vent, get a few tools, move on, but instead, the conversation shifted how I saw everything. I shared the truth about how I grew up, the way I was hustling just to stay afloat, how I felt lost as a man, as a father, and he listened, he didn't judge. He told me I was doing exactly what my kids needed, that I had already broken the cycle just by being there, by choosing differently. He said my daughters were doing well because of the way I was showing up, that I was building a home they could feel safe in, and that my energy, even tough at times, was leaving them. That hit deep because until then, I've only heard those words from friends and family. But this therapist was a man who heard stories every single day. He didn't owe me any praise, and yet he gave it without hesitation. The real challenge was making sure I didn't pass down the pain I worked so hard to escape. The hardest part of parenting isn't what to do, it's not what to repeat. I didn't grow up around emotional safety. There were no calm conversation, no healthy conflict, no example of what real connection looked like. So when I became a parent, I had to face that reality. When my daughters cried or pushed boundaries, I felt frustration rise fast. Not because they were doing anything wrong, but because I never learned how to handle emotions, not even my own. My first reaction was always control, silence, distance. That's how cycles continue. I had to stop reacting and start responding. I began apologizing when I overstepped. I started explaining how I felt, not just correcting their behavior. I made space for the emotions, even though I didn't understand them. I read books, reflected at night, wrote down what I wanted to stop and what I wanted to build. So breaking generational cycles doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from a series of consistent actions, even when no one's clapping, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're exhausted. And once I started doing that, I realized something even more important. If you're trying to figure out how to be a good dad for your kids and still feel lost because you never had one yourself, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. I made a decision early on. No matter how busy life get, I would never be an absent parent. Growing up, no one came to my events. No one asked how school was. No one read bedtime stories or sat with me when I was upset. That kind of absence leaves a mark. You carry it without even realizing it. So I flipped it. I go to everything: parent-teacher meetings, performance, award ceremonies, random school lunches and breakfasts. I show up. I'm in the crowd. I make eye contact. I cheer. I am there. Because I remember what it felt like to scan the room and not see anyone looking back. And it's not always convenient. Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes work stacks up. But none of that matters more than being seen by your parent. I build my schedule around my girls. I just don't show up for the big things either. I read to them at night. I help them with homework. I sit next to them when they want to play. so I don't rush those moments. It creates safety, and the kids can feel it. Every time you're there, you're telling them they matter. Still, no matter how present I was, I knew that without stability, everything could fall apart fast. That's why I made a promise to never let money put my kids at risk. Being there for your kids means more than showing up. It means building a life where they don't have to worry about the basics. I know what it feels like to grow up broke, to open the fridge and barely see anything inside, to eat plain soup because that's all there was, to rely on school lunches or church food to get by. That kind of stress gets wired into your nervous system. It never leaves. So when I became a parent, I locked in one rule. I would never let my kids feel that kind of fear, ever. That meant getting serious about money. I tracked every expense. I keep things lean. I skipped the upgrades. I skipped the new clothes, skipped the nights out. I built up savings before I even thought about new gear. Because the number in my bank account is security for us. It's about being reliable. My daughters are smart and knows the bills are paid. The groceries are stocked. The lights are on. That stability creates trust, and trust builds peace. I won't let financial stress touch their childhood the way it touched mine. So there's no script for parenting. Your kids aren't memorizing what you say. They're watching what you do. I never sit my daughters down to lecture them about discipline, strength, or resilience. I show them. They see me wake up early. They see me work when I don't feel like it. They see me stay calm when I want to snap. They see how I treat people. They see how I treat myself. I exercise 5 times a day because I want them to understand consistency. I eat clean, not just for trends, but because I want them to know health isn't optional. I stick to routines even when I'm tired because structure is what makes life easier. They hear my tone. They feel my energy. If I bring chaos home, they're going to absorb that. If I stay grounded, they settle in. Because I want them to learn how to grow, not just follow rules. So in the end, how I live becomes their baseline for what's normal. But even with all that, I had to learn that doing it alone doesn't make you stronger. It actually makes you more tired. If you're a single dad who's tired of doing everything alone, I built a free group to help guys like us share ideas, stay focused, and keep showing up strong. Use the link in the description and join us today. For a long time, I thought carrying everything myself was what made me strong. So I'm a dad. I'm the provider. I'm the one who's supposed to have it all figured out. That mindset nearly broke me. The truth is, parenting in isolation, it wears you down. You don't notice it right away. It shows up in your patience. It shows up how quickly you snap and how little energy you have for people who matter most. I didn't want help because I thought it made me weak. But the more I opened up, the more I realized I had never meant to do this alone. Letting a family watch the kids for a couple hours, talking to another parent who's in the same storm like I am, saying I'm tired without apology. When I let others in, I got sharper, calmer, more present. I had more energy for my girls because I just stopped pretending I didn't need backup. And when you're raising kids, especially on your own, what you need most is space to breathe, to think, to reset. The work is still mine to do, but I don't have to carry all of it, all the time, by myself. And even when no one sees it, the most powerful work I do is the stuff that goes completely unnoticed. Most of what makes you a good parent will never show up on the highlight reels. No one claps when you wash dishes at midnight, or when you hold back your frustration after a very long day, or when you show up tired, overworked, and still choose to listen instead of react. You don't get credit for skipping the impulse buy so you can pay for lessons or school supplies. No one notices when you pack snacks, handle paperwork, fold laundry, or just show restraint during conflict. But that's the work that matters most. That invisible effort creates a home your kids feel. They don't know how hard it is to get up early and still make time to talk before school. They don't know how much you sacrifice to keep things stable. And over time, those little acts stack up. They become the atmosphere your kids grow up in. They build trust, feel seen, and safe. I had to learn how to stop chasing recognition and focus on the impact. Because the work is never wasted. It always leaves a mark. But sometimes that impact shows up in the most unexpected ways. If you're still showing up, still trying, still thinking about how to do right by your kids, you're already ahead. By the time you bite your tongue instead of snapping, for holding everything together when it feels like it's all falling apart, for choosing patience over comfort, for staying up late and waking up early, for doing the hard thing when the easy option is to quit, for the ability to say, I'm not going to pass down this pain. This is what legacy really looks like. Not what you give your kids, but how you make them feel when they're with you. You don't need a perfect past to give your kids a better future, just the choice to lead them today. Drop a comment below and just share one lesson you wish you had learned earlier. Watch the next video right here because it gives you the exact strategies on how I used to stay grounded and consistent as a single parent. Thank you.